Got it. Okay, so welcome to the group, everybody. My name is Cornelius Short. I'm the co-manager of the Adobe Users Group. Been part of the group for, I don't keep track, about 20 years, I think. It's been that long. But as you know, we meet monthly, the second Thursday of every month, most months, I should say. Some months we may skip around the holidays, whatever, but typically the second Thursday of every month. And we talk everything Adobe. And so we cover topics from Flash, well, not Flash anymore, but Photoshop, Illustrator, and many of the other applications. I like to be able to teach them some additional application. I think there's a new application called Adobe Express that just been recently released. I need to look into that. There's a 3D application I would like to look into and teach on that. So anyway, most of you guys are familiar with the platform, so I'm not going to waste any time. I want Roman to get started and with his presentation.
The insurance company hired to handle the entire case.
So Roman, you can get started as soon as I think Karen turns on the recorder. I think it's already on. It is.
Yes, the recording's on.
Okay, great. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen here. And here we go. All right, let me go close this down here. Okay. All right, thank you guys for having me. And this, as Karen said, this is a bit of a dress rehearsal. I really do appreciate you guys letting me do this because I get all worked up and like nervous over this thing. I present all the time. This is part of my job.
Is that right? Do you still get nervous?
Yeah, I get like, I'm like, oh, and I can't sleep, and it's just like miserable.
Right?
I don't know. I guess I want to do like a good job, and then sometimes I try too hard, and then I like screw it up.
Wow.
But no,
I thought you was the resident expert when it comes to teaching.
Well, normally, but when it comes to going to Max, when it really doesn't matter that much, because it's not like they're paying me. I mean, they're paying me, but the individual people that are there aren't paying me. You know what I mean? They're just attendees. But I guess I want to put on a good show, so and make it relevant. And I guess I feel a little bit of competition because there's a lot of other instructors there and some really fantastic presenters, and so I sometimes get butterflies. But they asked me what I wanted to do this year, and I've had a lot of people come to me and asking me how to build a career. And I'm not just talking about young people, I'm talking, older people too that want to reinvent themselves. So I thought, I am going to present how to make a dynamic PDF portfolio in InDesign, according to me. Okay. My name is Roman. I'm a designer teacher. I'm also work for a company called Lumenbright. I'm also the founder of that company. And we do digital design training, mostly on the Adobe product line. So, why do you need to create a PDF portfolio? You probably already have a portfolio online, but creating a PDF portfolio allows you to kind of narrow your specialty. So if on your website, you do everything in the world, you're a jack of all trades, maybe on this PDF, you are specialized. And when you see that job offer for a graphic designer, you're not sending them everything that you do, but a very narrow specialty of what you want to present yourself with. You can also keep your stuff more private. I know my portfolio, I keep it private because in the past I've had actually some friends borrow some of the content and use it in their portfolio. And I didn't really feel comfortable with that. I once worked with a client who put everything up on his website, and his competitors were taking some of those images and claiming that those images belonged to them, and they were getting jobs. And so putting things in a PDF portfolio and sending it to them, to a client, emailing them, that gives you a lot more control. Printable, yes, maybe. And that can be a nice thing today because you can't print web pages very well. And sometimes a client, an employer may want to print that out and take it to the boardroom and be offline. Sometimes it's required. A lot of these job postings that you'll find even on Google, you'll have an upload. They'll let you upload a document. There's no space for a URL. They let you upload a document. And probably the most important reason why you might want a PDF portfolio is that sometimes potential opportunity will go to your website to see your portfolio and they're confused. They don't know what they're looking at. They're like, okay, what does this guy do? He does all these things. I want him to do this. And so you can really make a portfolio simple and to the point, so that even the lowest denominator can understand what you're presenting on, what you're trying to show them. So I have a couple portfolios that I want to show you. These are real life portfolios. This first one here is from a gent named John Reynolds. I've actually built his website for his portfolio at Max a couple years ago. And so he's a graphic designer, works for a Disney Channel now, and he's a seasoned veteran. Okay, he's got, silver hair. He's a silver fox. So he's got quite a portfolio in here, and you'll see that there's some merch. These are kind of like mocks, right? They're mock-ups of his work, but in actuality, these are real printed items that he's taken photos of. But I also recommend using mocks if you don't have these on actual physical materials. Notice the little captions he has down here. This is really simple. Like, he's a graphic designer. You're not wondering, does he build websites? I don't know. What does he do? He does graphics. And so you'll notice his little totem at the bottom, his little icon at the bottom. It's pretty nice, and got a lot of different bodies of work, logos, posters, and so forth. It got him a job. It keeps him a job. So this platform, this kind of method of way he's building his portfolio is working well for him. So on that topic, you may be ready to build your portfolio and you're wondering, where do I start? I know personally, I have a real hard time making my own stuff. Like, I'm my own worst enemy. I build things and I start looking at my portfolio and I'm like, man, I'm not good enough. This sucks. Or I start putting an emotion to my portfolio piece because it reminds me of that project, and maybe it was a challenging project, and then I get frozen. And so it's nice to go get inspiration from other places. And I do this on any project, but one place that, Adobe likes you going to is Behance, and I like going there too. I just did a search for portfolios, and I can find tons of portfolios up here, some awesome portfolios and some not so awesome. One thing I can tell you right now, though, don't put your face in your portfolio. Putting your face in your portfolio is a real fast way of getting your portfolio just completely rejected, because that company may not want to be accused of racial bias. And so you just put your face in there, and that could jeopardize your chances of even getting in the job. So Behance is one option. Another place you can go, Adobe Stock. They got some templates up here for portfolios. I just did a search for a portfolio, and a lot of these are for free. Not all of them are great. Some of them are pretty cool. Here's one that is not for free. It's going to cost you about $10, and it's pretty snappy looking. I personally, maybe I might buy this and borrow some elements from it, but personally, it makes me feel like kind of my content's going to be stuck in a prison. And when you make your portfolio, you want something that's going to be easy to update, and you don't want the template to control the content. You want the content to be fluid enough. You want the template to be fluid enough that your content can flow into it, and you're not having to redesign things every time you have a different graphic. But this is another option. Another thing that I like to do when I'm looking for ideas is I'll go out in the world. I live in suburbia, so when I go outside, I see brick houses and trees and a lady walking the dog. And I really need to see something that's a little more inspirational. So I've collected stuff over the years. This is a small collection of things that I have that I use sometimes. This is a little zine, door knocker for a hotel. I think I was staying at the Virgin Hotel in Chicago, and I got this, and I was like, wow, this is really pretty. I'm going to take that. Postcards, menus, a magazine I got on the airplane, and I collect these things. And that way, when I'm feeling like I need to build something, I don't know what to make, I needed some inspiration on how to line something up, maybe add a caption or whatever, I go and find content. Different places I'll go to Barnes and Noble, I'll go to a cool bookstore, I'll go to coffee shops, anywhere I can find information. Some of it's very corporate, some of it's very punk and very different, some of it's even obscene, but I'll take that information, I'll grab things that I like, even stuff from highbrow places like museums, and I'll get ideas from that. Excuse me. So what to present? Your best work. Only your best work. Don't show them the stuff that's kind of so-so, because when you show everything, it's said that you're only as good as your worst work. And maybe I made that up, but I think if someone sees something in your portfolio that's not very good compared to the rest, they think, well, maybe he'll make that bad thing for me too. And so only show your best work, and that removes any doubt. And it's the best work according to what you think. You know, it's all about your subjective opinions and ideas because you're the one making that presentation. So I got another portfolio to show you that's kind of different from John's. This guy here, his name's Scott Ridings. He's one of our, he actually met Scott. He came to take some training with us in Premiere and After Effects. And he showed me his portfolio, and I really liked it. First of all, he's got his information here. And as I go through here, he's got some logos. Notice that this title here throughout the pages stays consistent, and it even changes. It's got a nice separation bar. He's got these captions. He's using some mocks to mock out the work, because some people will look at your work and they'll see these nice rectangles and they don't understand that this was actually part of a magazine. I think his is very different than John Reynolds' portfolio because it shows not a specialization, but a really wide generalization of skills. It's a different strategy. And guess what? He competed for a national job posting, and he won it. So now he works at UT Austin as a art director, and he's doing very well for himself. So, you know, just a different strategy, and it worked for him. So how should you present your work? We saw two different ideas there. First of all, good layout. Use some captions, keep it simple. Okay, keep it simple. Maybe use some mock-ups. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the good layout in a second. In fact, that's going to be my main presentation to you, is how to do a good layout with InDesign. And I got some ideas to share with you. Recommendations for success. When you're making a portfolio, make sure you know who you're sending this to, at least a little bit. So you're not sending something that's completely irrelevant. You want to have a reaction from them. Make sure you specialize to fit the job. So if they're asking for a creative director, don't send them your UX portfolio. Send them the creative direction work that you've done that's related to the job. And good idea, in my opinion, maybe bad idea to you, I don't know. Submit your work for review to different people. Maybe to people that you respect in the industry, maybe even to your mom. But, you know, be patient with those results that you get back, the feedback you get, because it could be a little frustrating. Take it with a grain of salt. And if you're finding some commonality between everyone, make changes. Make sure there's no typos or mistakes. It's the most simple thing to screw up on, and also the most silly thing to make those mistakes on. Also, again, only show your best work, quality over quantity. If you only have 3 awesome pieces to show, then just show that. Make sure you use a clean, easy to use update design. I'm going to show you some ideas right now. And if you don't have a lot of work, then create tribute work. Let me show you an example here. This gentleman here, Jeroen van Eerden, he made a tribute to the Adobe Creative Cloud. Okay, he wasn't commissioned by Adobe to do this work. He did it on his own. It's beautiful graphics. And so I ran across this just by chance while messing around on Behance. I liked them so much that I contacted him, and we commissioned him, and we used that artwork on our site. And so we even use it in some of our other graphics. And these graphics here, my daughter, Dulce, she's 24 now, and she's actually a graphic designer as well. And she's actually going to Max. So we have a generational thing happening at Max, which is kind of cool, because I've been going to Max since about 2003. I'm old, but now, you know, she's going to be there too. And so these are graphics that she made using some of these material assets that we got from this gentleman here. So, I mean, tribute graphics work, especially if they're nicely done. And I mean, for Jeroen here, he not only was able to present something that he thought was pretty cool, he made a sale, and he's here at Adobe Max showing his work. I mean, maybe not physically here, but in his spirit is here through his work. So tribute projects can be a good thing. Maybe you make something for Coca-Cola because you like Coca-Cola, and you make some nice graphics and artwork, and you present that as a tribute project to them. There's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to use a grid system to do our design. We're going to use color, typography, space, and geometry so that things look symmetrical, or at least interesting. So when building the project, I looked again for found content, and I wanted to build a PDF portfolio for my daughter Dulce. So this is her website, and she's got her portfolio already up here. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take some of these elements, some of the design of her site, and I'm going to build a PDF portfolio. But again, it's not a website, it's going to be a PDF. So what I did is I went ahead and looked around, and I found some catalog samples. In fact, I got this in the mail the other day. This was a advertisement for Amazon. Notice it's got a nice grid system in here. That's the first thing I noticed. I'm like, I get these this thing from Amazon is this beautiful Christmas guide for buying toys, and I don't have kids anymore, not little kids. So I'm assuming Mr. Bezos, Daddy Bezos, wants me to buy things for myself, I suppose. But I look at over there, there's another one for floor.com. Look at these nice, big, beautiful images. Look, there's like a common gutter right here. Nice grids. More gutters. Okay. It's very consistent in this floor.com brochure. Come over here and look at those sexy grids. I mean, they're so nice. They really are. I can look at these furniture magazines all day long and not buy a single thing, but I just like how nicely they're laid out with these cool pieces of furniture. This is from the same company. More grids, very consistent, very well presented. This is another one, which here that didn't display very well, but this one here is from, I think, CB2. And it's a grid system, but you know, they're cool cats. So they kind of broke the grid a little bit. So I'm going to show you what I mean about this grid system here in just a second. You got this grid system down here. It's a little different than the others. So we're going to take a look at that right now. So I have an example here. Let's say you didn't have a grid. You got into InDesign, you're ready to start designing something, and you got a graphic. I found this cool graphic on Adobe stock, and I pull this over here. I do something like this. I'm like, okay, should this be up here? Should this be snappy to the margins? I don't know where to put it. And that's always been my problem, is I don't know exactly where things should be. And they're like, well, you're a designer, you're supposed to know. And I'm like, I don't know. So instead of randomly just throwing things out here, I can add a grid system. I'm going to go to layout and choose create guides. I get this create guides menu, or a little panel show up, little window show up, and I can add rows. Adds these little teal or cyan colored rows out here. And these are columns. I'm just going to add several in here. This gutter is the space in between here. I'm going to leave those as they are. Make sure I have my preview checked on, and I can move these to the margin or to the page. I'm going to make them fit within my margins that I have here and hit OK. Then I take my graphic and maybe I stick it right here. I can stick it wherever I'd like to, but I'm going to stick it right there. I'm going to make that fit right within that grid system there. And I can go to my properties and I can use a fit frame proportionally, and that looks pretty good. When I have titles like this, I don't like them separated from their text, these headings. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and I'm going to put it within the body of this content here. Paste that in, hit enter. And the reason why I like doing that is I can go to this title and I can add space after here in my paragraph section a lot easier. And it's one consistent unit. It's not separate bits and pieces that I have to work with. Now, this has a lot of words going across, so I'm going to bring this in. Rule of thumb is that there shouldn't be more than about 10 words per line in any particular column. So I could bring this here, drag that up. If I zoom in a little closer, I can see that this is not lining up to the grid. So I'm going to line that to the grid. And this one here, I'm going to line to the grid as well. It gives me a nice gutter space in between here. And I can move this here, or if I'm like, okay, it's too narrow, I want it wider. Well, I can move it there. And a lot of this kind of like unsureness, if you will, is kind of solved by using a grid. I can turn off that grid here, and I have my nice looking document. Everything's even on the sides. I don't have to worry about being off a little bit, and that works pretty well. So let's take a look at a grid. I know I just threw that as an example here, but let's look at the anatomy of a grid. So I have this example here with a grid. These are called modular grids. Okay, I have columns, I have rows. These little sections in here are called modules. These lines are called flow lines. The space in between all these little modules is called the gutter. Spatial zones make up more than one module. And then, of course, you have your, whoa, that looks freaky there in design. It's my bleed line. I have a slug for notes. And then, of course, I have this little area down here for markers, runners, folios, etc. If you're not using a lot of graphics, you could use a single column grid or a 2-column grid. Especially, let's say you're a copywriter, or if you have a lot of testimonials of copy, you could use these types of grids. Again, try to keep it about 10 words per line. Otherwise, people have a hard time reading your columns. They lose their place. If you see someone reading your portfolio with their finger, then they either need glasses or you have too many lines, too many words per line. So keep it to about 10 if you can. Here's a 2-column grid and a multi-column grid with some images. And then the modular grids, Okay, this is going across a spread, across like a magazine. And I can move this here. These little flow lines tell me where I can move this. But at the same time, you don't have to keep these as they are. You can put things halfway in the middle if you want. You can break this grid. It's not something that you have to adhere to. The grid is there to serve you, not the other way around. So I can move these modules around. I can even move them off to a bleed if I want to. Like you saw in that CB2 advertisement, they even had some of these images overlapping other images, which creates kind of an interesting appeal. Does that work? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it looks awkward, but you as a designer have to make that choice because you're the one that's making this stuff, right? The grid is there to help you. Is an example of a 3x4 grid with no gutter. Example of an 8x12 grid with no gutter. And this is 11x15. My favorite, my magic numbers are 11x15. Okay. You could pick up a design book and they say, no, use 12x16. But personally, I've been using modular grids for quite a while now. I've been doing this stuff for about 20 years now. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm getting old, but I found that I didn't use grids for a long time because I didn't like the busyness of them. But now I use them and I find that there's a lot of calmness in here. There's structure. You know where things should go, but you can always change things. You have flexibility to do so. So I'd like to get into a bit of a project here. Let me start that project now. I'm going to do file new document. Actually, I have something already kind of ready to go. So I created a new page. I have my branded colors from Dulce's portfolio, and I have a grid. This is grid is kind of locked down because a lot of times instead of just putting a grid right here in your regular body pages, you can put your grid instead of your pages here. You can put them in your master page. So if I go to my master page, I have this grid here, and I can move these grid lines around. I can change this. Or I can just completely overwrite them. So I'm going to go to layout, choose, actually, I'm going to go to ruler guides. Ruler guides will let me change the color of this grid. I have a hard time seeing these cyan lines. So I'm going to go to orange and hit OK. And then I'm going to go to layout, create guides. And from here, I can make sure preview's on and I can add my magic numbers. This will be 11 and this will be 15. And I can remove the existing guides that are there because I don't need them anymore. I'm going to hit OK, and there you go. We got a nice tight grid that will accept lots of beautiful content. I'm going to go ahead and use this placeholder rectangle frame tool. And this just allows you to draw something that would represent an image eventually. I'm going to plop that there. And I'm also going to add another one. And this is going to be for my text frame that I'm going to stick in there. This is going to be my caption for this image. In fact, I'm going to make that maybe a little more narrow, and I want some more space in between these. So I'm going to break the grid because I can do that. That's what the grid is for. It's for you, not for itself. Okay. I'm going to move this down a little bit, and that way I'll have more space between my images and my caption. Later on, I'll add some page numbers and so forth. This is just a placeholder. I can change its size later when I want to. When I go back into my regular pages, you'll see that everything is locked down, so I don't accidentally move it. I'm going to go ahead and add a few pages in here. And I can move these pages next to each other so that it's easier for me to see. No one's going to see my InDesign document. It's here to serve me. So maybe I use my page tool over here to just kind of separate them. Page tool does a lot of, has a lot of the features, but I'm just using it to give a little bit of gap here. So it looks nice for me as I build this out. So I have some graphics that Dusa built that she's used in different projects. And I want to put something in there. And so it's all locked down. So to unlock it, I press Control-Shift-Click or Command-Shift-Click on the Mac, and that will open up these placeholders so that I can put content in them. You can also unlock the grid if you need to in the same way. So I'm going to insert an image here. And the first image I'm going to insert is actually this Illustrator graphic. These are some logos that she made, these icons she made for this company that she's been working for. Now, I already laid them out in here. And rather than try to drag each one of these icons in individually inside of InDesign, I can just take these, highlight them, and drag them into my library as I did here. These are the CC libraries, which is part of the Creative Cloud. If you're not currently using libraries, I highly recommend it. And maybe I'll sell you on these right now. So if I go back to InDesign, I have my CC libraries. I've organized these libraries already with these different graphics because you can group things in here real nicely. And I have this icon set. So I can just drag this out and I can click right inside that frame. If it doesn't land inside that frame, you can undo and eventually it will land inside there. It kind of takes a little bit of finessing, and I can go in here and make that fit a little nicer within that frame. Down here, I can grab my type tool and I can click inside here. I'm going to type in here, icon design set, hit enter, and maybe I go to type and insert some placeholder text. So basically, I'm going to do that on each of these pages. I've decided, though, that I want to add some more pages down here before I continue about talking about this project for these icons. I want to work on a different project. So add some more pages, drag these up. And again, this is just a personal preference, something I like doing. You don't have to do this when you do your work, but and just pull these apart so they're not all on top of each other. On this box right here, again, I'm going to unlock this, Control-Shift-Click. And in this box right here, I'm going to insert a Photoshop file, but this Photoshop file isn't in my CC libraries file. It's in a different folder. It's in an actual folder. So I'm going to do File, Place. And in here, I have this Adobe Forbes magazine mockup that did a project for the Adobe Advertising Cloud. And I'm going to go ahead and make this larger, maybe something like that, and go back to my fitting properties and fit that in there. So this is from a folder. This is not from a CC library. I could go ahead and type some text in there and move on. Now, I have a frame in here that I'm going to unlock, this placeholder frame, but I'm going to select it and delete it because I want to add something different in here. I'm going to grab my placeholder frame again, and I'm going to click and drag out of frame, and then I'm going to use my right arrow key to add 2 more frames. And I'm just going to plop that down, make sure it lines up within those cells, within these modules. And now I can insert images in here. I happen to have these images that she made. She used this cool like plexus look. It's got these polygons. So I'm going to stick that in there and put this dude and this lady with her dog right in there. I'm going to pull this one over a little bit because she's walking her dog and I want to see more of that. I can pull that all the way over to the margin. I'm going to go ahead and highlight all 3 of these, go to my properties, and from here, I can go ahead and choose this fitting option. All right. I want to see more of this guitar man, so I can just pull him over here. And what's nice about the grid is I don't have to guess. Should it be here? Should it be here? Well, I just mac that over to the margin. Now, oops, I had all those selected. Let me try that again. I can pull that all the way over here. I can see more of this guy. If you want rounded corners, remember in InDesign, you can click on these images, click on that little yellow rectangle, and you can drag that in to add some nice rounded corners. Now, I want to show you kind of the power of the round tripping features from InDesign to Illustrator and to Photoshop. So I'm going to take this image first, and it's a Photoshop file. So if I want to edit it, traditionally, I'll go to right click, edit original, and this would launch Photoshop. And in Photoshop, this PSD would open. Now, this is a mock that Dulce found on the internet. It's a free asset that she located and got a free license for. And you can find mocks yourself all over the place. In fact, on Adobe stock, you can find mocks for sale. They'll cost you about $10 a pop. You can find a lot of them free on the internet too. The nice thing about the ones you find on sites where you actually buy them is they're well built. And the ones that you find on the web, it's hit or miss. She got lucky by finding this one here because I think it's pretty nice looking. But I can take this right side. These have a bunch of smart objects in here, and I can double click that to get into this PSB file. And I can modify this because I decided that I want to feature this guy instead. See, I have all these graphics in here, but I want to feature that guy. So I just save this file. I hit Control S or Command S on the Mac. And when I go back to this Photoshop file, it's been updated. I also have the left side. And this took like nothing to make this mock because it was a free asset, but I could also buy it, especially if it's something important for me in my portfolio, buy something nice for myself. And look how professional it is. No one's going to question what these assets are for. It's for a magazine. So I can save this document. And when I go back into InDesign, ta-da, it's been updated. Sometimes it won't update immediately, and you'll have to go to your links panel. There'll be a little yellow exclamation mark, and you have to double click on it to update that image. And that's something that's common when you're round tripping images between Photoshop and Illustrator. However, if you're using images that are coming from the Creative Cloud libraries, and I know this is from a library because it has this little icon versus linked assets that have a little chain link, I can right click on this and I could do edit, but instead I'm going to go to my library and find this asset, right click and choose edit. And what it does is it launches in Illustrator, but it opens up the asset that's located on Adobe servers. So this is a cloud asset. I'm going to go ahead and add a different gradient background here. So I'm going to select him and whoa, excellent. That looks really cool, but that's not exactly what I wanted. Okay. I'm going to select just the background here. And so I got the background selected, and I'm going to use this new freeform gradient tool. What's interesting about this tool is that it's using Adobe's machine learning platform, Adobe Sensei, and it just creates beautiful colors. I can click off and back on it again, and sometimes it'll give me different choices. I think that one looks great. I don't know exactly how it works. I'm assuming it's probably taking some inspiration from the image in front of it, but all I know is it does a better job than when I pick the dumpy colors that I usually pick when I'm making gradients. So I can save this file, go back into InDesign, and bam, immediately, there's no yellow triangle with an exclamation that I have to double click on. Works immediately. I can go back into Illustrator, and I can even open up these assets here directly from here, or I can go to edit to edit them, and I can do the same thing. So I'm going to select the background here. That looks pretty cool. Save that one there. I can open up this woman walking the dog, select the background here, and add that there. I can cycle back and forth to find something that's more appropriate, that makes sense to me. So pretty neat. I'm going to go ahead and stick with that one there and save. I go back to InDesign and they've been updated. I don't know if I saved that one because I'm looking here. Oh, I need to just chill out. That's why I need to do it. It's updating. So this is a great way to round trip between these programs. I prefer putting things in the CC libraries because it does operate faster, but putting things in a regular folder works too. I do use CC libraries all the time, but I also am a little paranoid, so I usually keep a hard copy on a backup folder anyways. I wanted to replace this one. It looks like the guitar is is part of this guy's backpack. So I want to use this other image instead. And what's nice about this links panel over here, which is one of my favorite panels in InDesign, is I can take this guy with the backpack and I can push this button right here that says relink from CC libraries. And so what this lets me do is I can push that and select the graphic that I want to swap it with, which is that one there. And I can say relink. And that image has now been relinked, and I didn't have to go and drag it out and resize it and whatever. It just will relink that. And it'll also relink anywhere it lives within this document. This PSD is not a library asset. It shows me that. This is also a raster image. It's a resolution resolution-based document. So I can see the PPI is, it's got to be at least 300 PPI, right, to be printable. And its actual PPI is 300, but since I made it smaller than the original, it's 392. So definitely ready for print. These are illustrated graphics, so I don't really have to worry about them. And that's how that goes. I'll continue adding additional images. So I've kind of done that already. Added some images. Just blink your eyes really hard right now. Okay. And now open them. Oops. Open them now. Okay, and so I have my graphics in here and I can turn off my grid. If the grid is getting on your nerves, you can go to your properties and you can turn them off this way, off and on. You can also go to preview mode over here and you can turn on preview. I like cycling between preview mode using shortcuts. And so you can do that as well, just cycling between preview mode and shortcuts. So I got different graphics in here. These were some banner ads, and I went ahead and laid these out inside of Illustrator, like I did the icons, because it'd be too much work to have to deal with a bunch of little bits. And these are some door knocker and a brochure that she made. And there's a mock of a website that was related to this campaign. I have some mobile apps that were using these icons she made. And so this is a small sample of her portfolio. I also added this up here. Now, to finish this, here it has her logo and of course some other information. I'm going to add some icons down here from my CC libraries. And so I have some social media icons that I got from Font Awesome. I'm going to drag these out here. And instead of just clicking one at a time, I'm going to click and drag and then push my right arrow key 3 times and hold my shift key and snap that to there, and there my icons get thrown out there all at one time. I can also take all of this here, click and drag on it, and I can drag that into my library, and that creates something called a snippet. So I could go to my last page where it's my thank you page, and I could just drag this out here, and I can ensure that it looks just like the one on the front page. So I can move that around as needed. And I think that's really cool that you can copy and paste a whole chunk and use that in other projects as well. So I got a pretty comprehensive portfolio here, but I want to do some more. So what I'm going to do here, first of all, is I'm going to go to this and I want to change and add some styles. That's one thing that you can do that's really going to save you time, is making sure that you use styles in this document, even your portfolio. So I'm going to change this here, and I'm going to use this font I found on Adobe fonts called Rock Grotesque. It's the only one showing it here because I have these filters on. I've turned on the Creative Cloud filter for Creative Cloud apps, fonts, and I've also favorited this font here. So it's the only one that shows up. So I'm using Rock Grotesque here. And this will be bold. And then down here, for the rest of this, I'm going to go ahead and choose Rock Grotesque again, regular, and I'll go ahead and add some space after there. It looks pretty nice. There you go. And I'm going to make styles out of this. So put my cursor in there. I can go up here and create a new style. I'm going to call this head 3. This text down here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new style here. I'm going to call this a body, and I have that going on. I would go ahead and open up my paragraph styles panel from here, and I would click in each of these sections and add my styles, going one at a time and changing that out. So add styles, and we're going to revisit this here in just a moment. But another thing I'd like to do is go back to my master page and add some variables. Variables are really nice because they do a lot of work for me and they make my portfolio kind of dynamic. So I'm going to add a footer down here. This is going to be matching the color of her branded site. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little line here with a stroke of 2 and maybe add some Japanese dots, just like her website has. So I got that going on. I think that looks kind of cool. I'm going to use my type tool, put out some text out here. And this is going to say her name. Whoops, too many R's. That's a okay. Add a bar. And then I'm going to put her what she does, which is going to be a graphic designer. But I'm going to add this in just a little bit. So I'm going to leave that there for now. I'm going to jump back into my regular pages and go here. And I'm going to remove this title, which is graphic designer title. And instead of adding a regular text title, I'm going to go to type and choose text variables. And I'm going to define a new variable. I'm going to make a new variable called job. This is going to be a custom text variable, and it's going to be called, in fact, we'll change it. We'll call this a creative director. Okay, it's a creative director job that she's going for. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to choose insert. There it is. I'm going to hit done. And this is no longer regular text. It's now a variable. But I can go back to my master pages. And right here at this insertion point, I can go to type text variables and I can insert. Oh, look at that. It shows up job. And so I can put this in its place where it goes down below. I'm just going to go ahead and change the justification here to the right and stick this somewhere down here for now. I can line that up a little more perfectly later. But if I go back to my regular body pages and I want to change this, maybe I probably want to remove it from the home page too. I can delete that from the home page and it'll be on the other pages. But now I could go to this variable that I just defined, job, and choose edit. And maybe she says, no, you know what? I'm going to just stick as a graphic designer for this particular job offering and hit OK. She's now, oh, what? That changed it there. Look at that. Did it change it on home? It did. So she's now a graphic designer, and I can make those changes as I go along without having to worry whether or not I changed it everywhere. So as I go along these pages, I can continue changing and adding things. Now, this is a different mock. I may decide, maybe this mock looks too busy, go find something else. A little tip is if you're looking for app mocks, like mocks that look like a phone or like a web browser, go look for Adobe XD mocks or a Figma mocks. And you can download those usually for free. And you can use those interfaces to put your web and mobile graphics in. So I'm going to show you next another example here. But before I move on, actually, I really like to add some more decoration to this caption right here. And so I'm going to go to my properties. And this is called head 3. I'm going to go to the style options of head 3, and I can go to rules. I can turn on the rule above and make this say, 2 points. And I'm going to change this to this color here. And I'm going to add the Japanese dots. And I can move this, offset it so it's the top of this text. But you'll notice that it's outside of the frame of the text frame. So there's this little option here to keep inside the frame, and that way it'll line up nicely with my beloved grid. Okay, I can hit OK, and this style's been updated. In fact, anywhere I have this title now has that there. And so this would provides kind of some separation, maybe a little bit of decoration, but adding these rules is another way of communicating. It's kind of saying like, this is important. This is a box, just like you would bold something. I could also do things to kind of add balance with boxes, colored boxes specifically. So I could go here and maybe add a box behind these graphics. Maybe I would line that up just like so. And I could add a gray fill, maybe of like 25% or something. And I could send that to the back. And what that would do, first of all, it lines up to my grid easily. I could even pull this behind this other one if I want to. But it's kind of like, look, here's some mobile phones to have in your clutches. And again, the benefit there is so that you can have some emphasis, some kind of interestingness on the page. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that you may want to put some page numbers up here, and we can leverage those variables once again. So I'm going to go back to my parent page, and I'm going to add another box up here. And in here, this is going to have a couple things. First of all, I'm going to add something called a running header, and I'm going to add a page number. So the running header is going to suck up the heading and pull it up into this text frame. So I can do that by going to type text variables. But before I add it, it's right here. I'm going to define it. So I'm going to go to define. I'm going to choose this running header and go to edit. And running header is fine, but it's not going to be called the basic paragraph. It's going to be called the head 3. When I hit OK and I choose insert, there it is. Hit done. And right after this, I'm going to add another bar. And I'll put the page number, which is type, insert special character, markers, current page number. That looks pretty. Go ahead and add that to the right. And so now when I go to my regular body, which is sucked up into the type number. Same here, icons, web icons. This one doesn't work because this one doesn't have the style on it. So I would need to go here and get to my paragraph styles and apply that head 3. And as soon as I do that, and swipe down back up again, it now says email marketing. So just to show you kind of a more complete version of this, I can go to this other file here. And it's asking for an updated, modified file because I modified this graphic earlier. And so I changed my mind. You know, over here in this example, I had these captions over here on the right-hand side, and I decided I didn't like that. So I moved them over here to the left-hand side. And I did that with all of them. In fact, that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing that I moved all these over because I thought it looked better. And that's one of the great things of having a grid, is that you can make these changes last minute without having to build a new grid or something. In this example here, I went ahead and also added another colored bar to add some geometry, maybe even some balance and symmetry. I added color here, add visual interest and just kind of beauty. Okay. So as I go through this portfolio, I don't know about this mock. You know, it's got a lot of busyness. It looks cool, but you know, what am I selling here? Am I selling the mock or am I selling the web page? You know, that's something that you can analyze and kind of ask people when they see this and they're like, what am I selling? You're like, an Apple computer, maybe. And so as I go from page to page, everything should look quite consistent. I get to the last page, I went ahead and did something with the header there, and we have what I'll call a complete portfolio. She has a lot more work, but this is the body work that I chose to put in here. Now I want to export this as a PDF. So I'm going to choose File, Export. And there's other work that I didn't show you that we don't have time to see, such as adding the hyperlinks and such. But I'm going to save this as 03 PDF for now. And I'll choose Save. And in here, I'm going to choose All for all pages. Okay. I want the view to fit the page. I want everything to be nice and fit in the window in Acrobat. This is going to be a single page. This is my favorite button right here. Show me the PDF after you finish exporting it. Other times, if you don't do that, it's stored in your folder and you have to go look for it and find it to open it up. Optimize for fast web view. If you intend on putting this on the web, you can even tag it if you'd like, if you're concerned about people reading this with a screen reader. If you have hyperlinks, make sure you turn that on. And now I can go and export this thing. And so I've exported. You know, it's doing something right now. You can see it's working and generating that PDF. Now, I'm not completely done with this PDF because there's something else I want to do with it. And for some reason, it didn't open. I think it didn't like me today. So I'm going to have to go manually open it. There we go. Okay. So there's your PDF. The hyperlinks work. And I can, hopefully someone that opens this up will understand that there are more pages and that they have to scroll. But, you know, I'm working with the lowest denominator. It's that guy in the HR department that's been tasked at putting together all this all these different portfolios and resumes. And so he's tired. I want to make this really easy. And I'd like to have this opened up over here so that they can see all the pages of this document. But if I open this up and save it and send it to him, he's going to see this when he opens it up. So I can go to File and choose Properties. And from here, I can go to this Initial View tab, and I can say, don't just show me the page, show me the Pages panel and page. And that way, this navigation pane will open up with those pages, and it'll remember next time someone else opens it up. Another highly recommended thing is to go into description and add a title. So I might say here, graphic design portfolio or something. And I could put the author name. Oops. Subject, but I can add keywords. So I could say Austin graphic designer, comma, designer, Austin, so forth. These are all keywords, and these keywords will allow this PDF to be searchable on different search appliances, including on Google. And so these keywords will help this PDF be found if that's what I want. In fact, you can put words in here that don't even exist inside the document, and this document has metadata that can now be searched for and found that way. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to save this document, and I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to close this document down, and I'm going to reopen it. Ah, look at that. It opened up with the sidebar flung open, and that's exactly what I want. The only trouble is if I go back to InDesign and I re-export this, well, I'm going to lose all of this wonderful metadata. And so what I suggest you do is, instead of adding the metadata inside of Acrobat, you can go to File, File Info, and this is where you can add that information instead. And that way, every time you export it, this information is retained. So you can add your title, your author, maybe your description. You can add as much as you want. I recommend adding title, description, maybe author, and for sure, keywords. And so when you export that, you'll have a really nice PDF that has that information. You will have to come back in here and open up this navigation pane each time, but I think it's a worthwhile thing. I've had situations where a client opened up my PDF and was surprised because there was only one page in the document. They didn't realize that they had to scroll to the next page. And so, I don't know what is going on in people's heads, and I want to make them very simple for them so they can get to my portfolio and see what I want them to see. But anyways, that's my presentation. I hope it was enjoyable and interesting. I'm here now to answer any questions. I see that there's quite a few things inside of the document here. And of course, you can just shout them out now as well, if you prefer. But yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Roman. This was a terrific presentation. I think it'll be useful to many, many people and not that hard to follow.
Cool.
So thank you. A lot of what went into the chat room, I think, were notes and comments about what you were saying. But one question that I just added was, you were talking about keywords. Would it be advantageous and a good idea to include keywords describing the objects that you design, such as book covers or door hangers and
Yes, in fact,
brochures?
that's a great idea. In fact, I'm going to write that down as a note. Yeah, because I mean, PDFs aren't really searchable, right? I mean, outside, they're like this closed box. When you do a search for for something, it never looks inside the PDF.
And
And so
I'm also wondering if something descriptive like great design, putting, if somebody were looking for a good designer, would that be a
Right.
keyword to use?
Yeah, that sounds great. And geographic helps too, right?
Yep.
Dulce applied for a job in London, and she was very well qualified for it and everything, but she didn't get the job. She didn't get considered for the job because the employment company considered only local people first and kicked out every other. And so in kind of working up this presentation, I've been talking to a lot of different employment agencies and stuff, and they say that generally they look for local people first, because it's cheaper, and it's just a lot easier to deal with people that already live in your city than having to have someone move on your behalf. And so if you're applying for a job out of city, you may want to just say that you're already in that city. Just an idea. That's been a feedback that I've gotten from many people. Yeah. So anyways, do you have any other questions, folks? I see there's something else down here. Okay. Yeah.
One sort of question is, I think that, and it could just be that you're used to calling master pages, but didn't they rename them parent pages or something like that?
They
to be
did.
politically correct?
They did. They're no longer called masters, they're called parents. That's
Now
right.
we only have edible issues with the pages, not
Yes.
enslavement issues.
Yeah,
with
there's
them.
no pages are being oppressed. Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's funny because Adobe made that version change, and they made this announcement that Adobe is inclusive and they're not going to allow this to happen. So they're changing this to make people happy, not trigger anyone. However, I taught FrameMaker today, which is like a technical version of InDesign, and they still call them master pages over there. So, you know.
Then you got around to it yet, I guess.
They haven't gotten around to it, right?
Yeah, we're like with Apple got the pregnant man and everything. So
They got a pregnant man.
well, icon, yeah, they do.
Oh, geez. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, master does, tell me if I'm wrong, but master doesn't mean
Enslavement.
Enslavement. It means,
It means a master of something,
Yeah.
controls.
yeah,
You
it's
could be a
like-
master of your craft. That doesn't mean you got a slave underneath you, right?
Right, exactly.
No. In fact, you didn't. You have apprentices, right?
Yes.
That will eventually become a master, or like in this case, the master. It's really a boilerplate. It's like a digital master. It's like,
Right.
It's
Or a
it's-
template, it's a
Yeah.
template. It's a master copy, the master key. You
Yeah.
know?
I just think they wanted to be cool. Okay.
No, they just, everybody got to bow down to the politically correctness.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
What's
so.
going on.
There is another question in the chat room, I think from Sherry, which is, how does the page tool and control shift click work to lock or unlock pages? Would you show and
Sure.
recap that part more slowly?
Sure thing. So if you have, let me just make a more simple example here. So let's say you have a document and you have something that was made inside the parent pages, maybe a rectangle. Okay, I'm just going to color this a more obvious fill color, blue, and it's in my parent pages. Thank you very much, by the way, for that feedback, Karen, because oh my gosh, at the previous Max, I got a bad eval from one person because I told the audience, I said, I know web design is hard, but you have to be tough. You have to just be a man about it. And I said,
oh no.
and I said,
Oops.
or a woman, or whatever you want to be. I was like, oh, and I got a review from someone that says, I am binary, a non-binary, and I don't appreciate the comment that he made. And I hope that next year Adobe finds instructors that are more sensitive. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I got in trouble.
Yeah.
But anyways, I talked to my lead, the guy that I work with at Adobe, and he's like, F them. I'm like, okay. I didn't mean that response. He goes, you can't please everyone, whatever. But this item is locked right now because I put it inside my parent pages. So to unlock it on your Mac, it's going to be Command Shift click, or PC Control Shift click, and that will unlock that element from the master page so that you can manipulate it over here. Once you've unlocked it, though, as far as I know, there's not a way to lock it back into the master page. It's now free, okay, and it's now free, and it's going to get on a boat and go to Washington and become a senator. Okay. And so yeah, so I guess that's how that works. I think for the most part, though, you can always go back and reapply a master page, but for the most part, you know, like over here in this example, you know, there were some page numbers. I added this rectangle, and when I did, this master page element was underneath the rectangle. So sometimes you have to unlock these types of things so that they can fit underneath other things on these regular pages, on these child pages, you know. So that was a great question. How did you chop up the pages with Page Tool? So what I do to separate these, because I don't like it when they're all smashed together, it just like visually it bothers me. So when you have a page, you can just grab this Page Tool and just click on them, and don't drag these sides or anything, because if you do, you're going to resize the page. Instead, oops, like I don't want to do that. Now that's like some
Grab it in the middle,
yeah, just grab it in the middle.
in negative space, not where there's an object.
Exactly. And you can even drag it downward if that's your thing, you know what I mean? If that's something you like. Yeah, this is I don't use the Page Tool for much, but I love having some separation between my pages so that when I look at my documents, it doesn't look like they're all smashed into one.
I like that.
And yeah, that freeform tool, I don't know how it's working. I did some searching for it. I've talked to a product manager and they're like, it's AI. I'm like, yeah, but how does it determine its colors? And they're like, and so I don't know. I think it's really neat because I tend to make some pretty ugly gradients personally. And this just makes, you know, really beautiful gradients for me. But yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about that Page Tool. That's very interesting.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Well,
there's no
thank
other
you for a great
questions.
presentation.
Oh, I
Oh,
appreciate it.
Roman, I'll offer one other suggestion for your presentation, and this just might be my personal preference, but if you can make your cursor arrow icon larger, it's easier to follow when you're presenting.
Good deal.
And also try not to jiggle it around unnecessarily.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Okay. Let me tell you, it's a nervous twitch. You know?
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes I will jiggle it because it
Well,
makes
it's
the
like
icon
talking with your
larger.
hands. Right. It also calls attention to where it is.
Yeah.
So in some ways,
I don't know if
moving it
that's a
helps.
feature, but yeah, that on the Macs, it makes it bigger.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's interesting.
Yeah. I wish it was more controlled though, because it's like you really got to jiggle it to make it big, you know, like that.
I think that it's a setting you can choose. There's also an add-on called Mouse Pose that is
Oh, yeah.
very, very helpful.
Oh, cool.
MOUSCPOSE, I think.
Cool. Awesome.
Well, super. Thank you very much for this. And I hope you are a big hit in Max. Too bad we can't write your evaluations from here.
Yeah. Well, I'm supposed to, they record it, but I got a notification today that some of that we have to be real careful on what we show. And so like those magazine snippets that I have in there, and even some of the portfolios are like, we don't know if you should show that. And I'm like, really? Because they're afraid that it's like copyrighted or something. I'm like, well, it's in a presentation. It's not like I'm trying to make it my own, you know. But yeah, we'll see. They're always real sensitive about that stuff. But no, I really appreciate the feedback, folks. I mean, it's really helpful. Thank you.
Well, super. Thank you.
Yay.
Cornelius, do you want to do your demo with InDesign at this point?
Oh, you talking about Adobe Illustrator?
Yeah, actually, I don't know why I keep saying InDesign because I've been listening to InDesign all night.
I
I'll
can.
stop.
I'm gonna give you the quick version of it.
That sounds fine.
And then you can review the video to you know, figure out how to do it, because I'm not